Welcome to the deep dive. If you, or maybe someone you know, has ever tried to, work or study in another country, you've probably hit that wall.
The bureaucratic brick wall.
Exactly. It's that moment where a document you completely trust here, say your diploma, is suddenly, well, it's not trusted by a foreign government.
Or just flat out rejected.
Our mission today is really for you, the learner. We want to cut through all that noise and give you a quick but really thorough shortcut on how this all works. We're talking about international document authentication, specifically the Hague Convention and the Apostille.
Right.
And for this, we've been looking at insights from a specialized service, Apostille Depot, who claim to offer precision and speed.
And that's our goal here today. To go beyond just defining what an apostille is, we want to understand its whole purpose, why it exists, how it changed things, and, importantly, how these expert services claim they can bring certainty to a process that feels, well, anything but certain.
Okay, let's unpack this. What exactly makes a document from, say, Ohio acceptable in Italy?
It's all about getting rid of what used to be called the chain of embassies. It was a total administrative gauntlet.
Right.
Before the Hague Convention back in 1961, if you wanted to use your U.S. birth certificate in France, you were in for a long, long ride.
How so?
First, you'd need it authenticated by your local Secretary of State. Then you'd have to send it to the U.S. Department of State in D.C. for a federal seal.
So that's already 2 steps.
2 big steps. And then, here is the killer. It still had to be legalized by the French embassy or consulate right here in the U.S.
Wow. So we're talking multiple agencies, multiple stops. That sounds like it would take months, depending on how efficient everyone was feeling that week.
Exactly, months. And the apostille, which is just French for certification, that was the mechanism designed to just completely dismantle that chain for countries that signed on.
So this one thing replaced that whole process.
It replaced the last 2 and most difficult stops. That one stamp from the Secretary of State is now recognized by every other member country. It's a guarantee that the signature on your document is genuine.
That distinction is huge. So the sources we looked at kept saying precision and speed are the heartbeats of the process.
Right.
But if a global convention standardized it, why do we still need an expert service to deliver that speed? Why is it still so complicated?
That's the real challenge, isn't it? The receiving part is standardized, but the issuing part here in the U.S. is not.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. We have 50 states. Each one has its own rules for which documents qualify, who has to sign them, and where you even submit them.
Oh, okay.
A birth certificate has a totally different authentication path than a federal document, like an FBI background check. So an expert service basically centralizes all that knowledge for those 50 unique systems.
So their claim to eliminate anxieties is really about eliminating the cost of making a mistake. Because if you're up against a visa deadline, one wrong move can mean
weeks or months of just crippling delay. Your whole plan gets put on hold.
What's fascinating here is the core promise isn't just about shuffling paper faster. It's about enabling life plans.
Exactly. The paperwork is almost always the final hurdle before this whole world of opportunities can open up. The service is basically trying to guarantee that bureaucracy won't derail your actual life.
So to make this real for you, the listener, let's just run through the sheer variety of documents that actually need this. It covers almost every major life event.
It really is.
We're talking about the most foundational stuff, right? Birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates.
Absolutely. If you're trying to get citizenship or residency somewhere else, those are non-negotiable. They have to be authenticated to prove who you are.
Then you get into documents about your history, your background. If you're applying for a job overseas, the FBI report, your official background check almost always needs an apostille.
And for students, it's the same thing. University transcripts, diplomas, they need that seal for a foreign university to even consider them legitimate.
And here's one I saw in the source material that kind of surprised me, but it makes so much sense when you think about it. Utility bills.
Yes, that one trips people up all the time.
Why would a power bill need an apostille?
It's crucial. Many countries want a secondary proof of where you live. If you're trying to open a bank account or get a local driver's license, they need verified proof of your address.
I see.
And if that utility bill is coming from the U.S., It needs that same level of authentication as your diploma to meet their requirements. It's such an easy thing to overlook.
And a very expensive mistake to make when you're already abroad.
Oh, absolutely.
And of course, it's not just for individuals. The sources pointed out business documents too, like articles of incorporation.
Right. Any company trying to open a foreign subsidiary or sign an international contract has to prove it's a legitimate U.S. entity. The Apostille does that.
So it's this massive logistical undertaking. And the provider we looked at claims fast processing across all 50 states. They serve clients nationwide.
And that really underscores the whole point. The need is universal, but the compliance, the complexity is just so high across the entire country.
We've covered the what, but the sources also stress that getting the document ready for the Apostille is maybe half the battle.
It often is, and that brings us to the whole support system that has to exist around this. Getting the Apostille is usually step 2 or 3.
Not step 1.
No. The prep work is just as important. For a lot of documents, especially things you create yourself, like an affidavit or a power of attorney, the first step has to be notarization.
Okay.
The source specifically mentions a Massachusetts Notary Public service. And that's key because a state will only issue an apostille for a document that's been properly notarized by someone they recognize. If that notary messes up the seal or a date,
it gets rejected immediately.
Immediately.
So the service is a compliance check on those first steps. But okay, let's say your document is notarized and apostilled. What if you're going to, say, South Korea and they don't operate in English?
You've just hit the next wall. Translation. And this is why the sources highlight certified and notarized translation services.
You can't just use Google Translate.
Absolutely not. The receiving government will demand a translation from a certified professional. And often, the translation itself has to be notarized to attest to its accuracy. The claim here is pretty big. Services from 120 international languages.
Wow.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, this combination of notary, apostille, and translation, it handles every single step. Imagine you need a power of attorney for Japan.
Okay.
You'd need it notarized here, apostilled here, and then translated into Japanese. Trying to find 3 separate vendors for that, it's a recipe for disaster.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If the underlying legal process is standardized by the convention, what's the professional edge? Why trust an expert instead of just, dealing with the government yourself?
It really goes back to those core promises,
Right.
Unmatched efficiency and accuracy. The hard reality is that government offices, state or federal, have zero tolerance for error.
Even small ones.
Even tiny ones. We hear stories all the time of documents being rejected because it was a photocopy, not a certified original. Or the wrong date format was used. A DIY attempt can easily cost you weeks just because they send the package back.
So the service acts as a kind of quality control.
Exactly. A quality control check and an institutional memory. They claim to handle every step of the process with precision, which means making sure everything is correct before it gets submitted.
So the real value is saving you time and eliminating errors.
When you're moving internationally, your timeline is always tight, eliminating those hidden failures. Honestly, it's priceless.
So whether it's for school, a job, or some other legal matter, this expertise is really about simplifying that journey, right? So you can focus on your actual life, not the paralyzing paperwork.
That's the goal.
Now, to ground this in a real-world example, the sources gave us a peek into how a service like this starts. This particular one began by mastering the very specific rules in Massachusetts. They operate out of Tewksbury, MA 1215 Main Street, to be exact. And that detail is important. It shows that you get to nationwide reach, not by being a generalist, but by mastering one legal maze at a time and then scaling that competence.
That's it. It's the journey from mastering the local details to offering a nationwide guarantee, making that leap from a local piece of paper to a globally accepted document as painless as possible.
So to recap our deep dive here, the Hague Apostille is a critical tool. It took this multi-stop bureaucratic nightmare, the chain of embassies, and turned it into a single standardized certification.
A huge leap forward.
And expert services then. They manage all the state-by-state variations and the crucial prep work like notary and translation to make sure your documents meet those exact international requirements.
This raises an important question.
Okay.
We've established how this system is built on trust established by the Hague Convention. It works great for its 124-plus member states. But if that's the gold standard, how much complexity is still out there for the 60 or so countries that are not signatories? For them, that old, slow chain of diplomatic authentication, state, federal, embassy, that's still the only way.
So what does this all mean? It means your next global move just got a little less complicated as long as you have the right expert help to navigate the red tape.
We always think about moving people or things, but this whole system,
No,
it shows that moving paper correctly is often the hardest part of the equation.
it really is.
And that's the power of the right knowledge,
Yeah.
quickly acquired.